folks, it's that time of the week once again where we're back with your favorite investor education show, Smart Money. And this week, for all you salaried employees, our topic is very, very important. We all know that Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in the budget gone by said that any interest on the employee contribution to Provident Fund above 2.5 lakhs will now be taxed. Remember, earlier, before this budget 2021 was announced, all interest on EPF was tax-free, but now any amount over 2.5 lakhs will be taxed. Does this make EPF or Voluntary Provident Fund not a lucrative option anymore? And should you switch to other asset classes, perhaps even within debt? Are there any other lucrative options? That's what we're going to discuss on the show today. Our expert today is Chetan Shenoy, Director Products and Advisory at Anand Rathi Wealth Management. He's going to do a deep dive for us into EPF and this whole tax angle and how you should approach it. Chetan, welcome to the show and thank you so much for joining us. Let's start from the beginning, right? What is EPF? What are the interest rates that I can avail on my employee contribution to Provident Fund? And when can I withdraw my EPF money?
Hi, Sonia. What is a EPF? EPF is an employee provident fund. It's a retirement cum savings scheme where a salaried individual is contributing on a monthly basis and gets an interest on an annual basis. The interest on the EPF is decided by the EPFO, usually announced around February of every year. So this year in February, it was announced as 8.5%. So it was kept the same as last year because it was 8.5% last year as well. We've seen the peak of that was the best interest rate we've seen in the recent decade has been about 8.8%, which was in the year 2015-16. And that's basically the scheme and the interest rates that we have seen over the last decade. It's mostly been around 8.5%. Oh. So as far as the features of a EPF is concerned, which is also very important to understand, ideally one cannot withdraw the money till the age of 58, right? So it's a retirement scheme after all. However, there are some scenarios that have been listed down, about 6 to 7 scenarios that have been listed down by the EPFO, and those scenarios are in which one could go in and put in a request. There's a physical request form that's available, as well as there's an online form that is available for somebody to claim for a certain portion of his own kitty that he has been accumulating. So the 7 different reasons why it could be done is listed down as unemployment for a couple of months. So if somebody has lost his job, has been unemployed for a couple of months, then there is a provision that you could apply for it. There is death before reaching, of course, the employee unfortunately passes away, then the family members can withdraw the money. The third is 90% of the sum can be withdrawn at the age of 54, 4 years before the age of 58, which was considered as a retirement age. There is construction of a house, a purchase of a house, or a purchase of a land, or even a renovation. That's the fourth reason. The fifth one is repayment for a home loan that has been taken in the past. That's another reason. And then marriage and education in the family.
Okay, all right. So you've
said
the
7 reasons.
You've set the basis or the ground for what is EPF and when it can be withdrawn and what are the rates, right? 8.5% is what you said. But I think the more important issue here is taxation. Earlier, your entire contribution was tax-free. Now, as per the new budget, you will be taxed. So just explain to us, if I say earn 20 lakhs, what would my taxation be? If I earn 50 lakhs, what would it be? And what are the implications? I mean, will this impact my retirement plans at all?
Okay, so this is how it was before the budget. So in this budget, in the Annexure B 15, there was a sort of a point that was made that there is now going to be a restriction of up to 2.5 lakh rupees of amount contributed by the employee. Before the budget, any kind of a contribution that is being made by the employee towards the Provident Fund, which meant even a voluntary Provident Fund contribution, was completely tax-free. So that's the big change that has happened right now. So any contribution beyond 2.5 lakh rupees is now going to be taxed which means that the interest earned on the contribution made over and about 2.5 lakh rupees is now going to be taxed. So that's the big change. Now coming to how is it going to impact us? Somebody who's earning a basic salary, which is important because the 12% is calculated on the basic salary, right? So somebody who's earning about 20 lakh rupees, 12% will mean that he would end up contributing about 2,40,000 rupees. His employer will obviously be contributing another 2,40,000 rupees. So it's actually 12% contributed by the employer. And to match that 2,40,000, which is 12% of 20 lakh rupees, the employee has to contribute a similar sum. So that's another 2,40,000 rupees. So the total contribution pre-budget would have been 4,80,000 rupees, and there was no tax on the same. Now, thankfully for income up for a person with a basic salary of 20 lakh rupees, that continues to be so. So there is no impact for somebody who was doing a mandatory contribution, which was 12%, which happens to be 2,40,000 rupees. Because 2,40,000 rupees is less than 2,50,000 rupees.
Got it. Okay, so now let's move on to the next one,
however,
right? So you spoke about how if you have a basic salary of 20 lakhs, before budget, after budget, there's no impact. You still don't have to pay any tax. But let's move to the next bracket, right? Say 20 to 50 lakhs and above. How do you calculate it? I mean, what would the tax implications be?
Absolutely. Yeah, see, 20,83,000 to be precise is the basic salary beyond which this would start impacting on the mandatory contribution. So up to 20,83,000 rupees, there would be no impact. That's what we spoke about prior to this. Now upwards of 20,83,000 rupees, this budget's implications will start showing up on your bottom line. That's what is going to happen. Now, if we take, for example, pretty fat salary of say 50 lakh rupees of basic contribution, basic salary, and if you look at 12% of that, now 50 lakh rupees would mean 12% of that would be about 6 lakh rupees. So 6 lakh rupees of contribution by employer, 6 lakh rupees of contribution by employee, and therefore a total 12 lakh rupees would have gone in that year. Now a rough calculation of say 8.5%, which is the interest rate. Prior to the budget, it would have been interest income of say 1,02,000 rupees. There was absolutely no tax on this amount. Now what has changed for this individual who had a basic salary of upwards of 50 lakh rupees is now the same 50 lakh rupees, obviously the contribution is the same 12% from both sides, so which is 6 lakh rupees each. So 1,02,000 rupees continues to be the interest because thankfully the interest rate remains 8.5%. However, now the contribution post 1st of April 2021, this is not going to impact us this year, this is going to impact us in the coming year. So in the year 2021, the contribution which has been made over and about 2.5 lakh rupees, which means 6 minus 2.5, on that 3.5 lakh rupees which has been contributed, there would be a tax implication. So 3.5 lakh rupees would earn interest of 8.5%, so that calculation needs to be done, which comes to about 30,000 rupees, 29,750 or something of that sort. Okay. On that amount now, there would be a tax of say a basic salary, basic tax slab of 30% plus a cess, and therefore a 10,000 rupees impact. Yeah.
Okay, so basically if you are earning a salary of up to 50 lakhs, anywhere between that amount for 20 to 50 lakhs, the total taxable contribution is about 10,000 rupees. This is what the calculation suggests, which doesn't look like a very big amount. But you know, if I just want to come back to the 20 lakh chart, you're saying that there is no tax on the interest if you earn up to 20 lakhs. But then there's also the voluntary provident fund, right? What happens with that? Because a lot of people tend to sort of divert their money there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, 8.5% is as handsome as it could get as far as debt is concerned. So naturally, there was a tendency to consider this as the best debt option for sure in the market out there. And that too, it's as good as a government-backed instrument. And therefore, there was a tendency to contribute more than what was mandatory, which meant that 2,40,000 rupees was mandatory. So upwards of 2.4 lakh rupees. Now the contribution that is being done upwards of 2.5 lakh rupees is now going to be taxed, and therefore the interest earned on the contribution made over and about 2.5 lakh rupees. So the voluntary provident fund is now taxable. So that will have to be paid on a yearly basis going forward.
Okay, so then the main question before we head into a break is, should you make a contribution in excess of 2.5 lakh rupees or no? What is your advice?
Absolutely. So I think the question finally boils down to, for a person who is mandatorily contributing over and above 2.5 lakh rupees, which means a person with an income of 2 lakh, upwards of 20 lakh 83,000 rupees of basic salary does not have a choice. So he will continue to contribute. So the choice is now for a person who's earning less than 20 lakh 83,000 rupees and doing a voluntary provident fund. On that, definitely there is other options that you could consider, and I think we intend to touch upon that after the break, but we definitely have 2-3 options lined up for you.
Okay, so you've given us the cue over there. So for people who are earning below 20 lakhs, you have several options which could be more lucrative for you rather than the employee provident fund, because that is getting taxed right now. So that's the question that we're going to answer on the other side of the break. If you are a salaried employee below 20 lakhs per annum, where else can you put your money which will give you better returns? We'll come back in just a bit. Welcome back to Smart Money. We're having a very interesting discussion on the taxation that all of you employees will have to incur because of the new changes in the rules. So employee contribution to Provident Fund will now be taxed above 2.5 lakhs, What are the other debt alternatives then? Chetan Shenoy has been speaking with us of Anand Rathi. Chetan, that's the question, right? Now that my EPF is getting taxed, I want to look for other lucrative options. So what are the options there are?
Absolutely. So the other lucrative options that are available to us is, let's look at it this way, that you have an option of doing the VPF. So that's definitely an option that you should keep open because it's 8.5% pre-tax. But then it's pre-tax. Now you have to look at it as like you're looking at a fixed deposit, because now any contribution upwards of 2.5 is going to be taxed. So depending on your tax slab, even if you take it as say 31.2% of taxation, which is basic tax of 30% plus cess, you will end up having a final number of somewhere around 5.8%. So that's what is going to be your net return on a contribution that you end up doing towards a EPF. While it will look like 8.5%, the post-tax is what you need to start looking at as far as the voluntary provident fund is concerned. Now, what are the other options? Now, consider a fixed deposit. Fixed deposits are earning us something like a 5.5, 5.75 at best at this point in time. So if you look at a fixed deposit, you're earning a 5.75, and then you look at the taxation, which happens to be a 32%, and then when you deduct that, your post-tax return happens to be about 3.96%. So that's just not there. So 3.96 in comparison to a 5.85%. So that's out of the window. The second option that you have got is to consider a tax-free bond maybe. And because it's a tax-free bond, whatever you earn on that is tax-free. So 4.7% is the kind of returns that somebody is making on a tax-free bond at this point in time. So once again, it falls short of being able to compete with the voluntary provident fund, which is post-tax 5.8 versus post-tax 4.7. The third option, however, is an interesting option, which is to consider a debt mutual fund. Now, any debt mutual fund which could earn us something like a 7%, which has the potential of earning us something like a 7%, is definitely an option that can be considered, because a 7% post-tax. Now, we should remember the tax implication is the interesting part. The tax implication on a mutual fund is considered as a capital gain. It's not interest income. And if one holds it for 3 years, the taxation becomes 20% with this benefit of indexation. Now, roughly indexation is currently going at about 3%. So a 20% post-indexation calculation of 3%, if somebody is able to get a fund which has a 7% earnings potential, the post-tax returns happens to be about 6.2%. Now, 6.2% is definitely about 0.35% higher than what you will learn in a voluntary provident fund. So a mutual fund, Sonia, which has a potential of earning 7% or upwards, is definitely an option that one could consider to earn a higher interest.
Okay, I just want to get that, that chart once again on your screen, the debt mutual funds versus VPF, right? As you said rightly, the post-tax returns on a debt mutual fund is 6.19%, while if you invest in the voluntary provident fund, it's 5.84%. So there's really not too much of a difference. But debt mutual funds are considered to be more risky, right? I mean, with the voluntary provident fund, you know that it's absolutely risk-free, it's sovereign-backed. With debt mutual funds, we've seen what's happened in the past. So don't you think that VPF is still a better option despite the, the interest rate, the post-tax returns being higher?
Absolutely. I think you have a point here. Safety is definitely something that one would want to consider. But there are some other benefits also that I would like to point out here in a debt mutual fund before we can get to a conclusion. The first thing, of course, is a 0.35% to 0.4% kind of a benefit, which does not look like a big sum. But the second benefit that which many of us don't realize is that it is a capital gain. So because it is a capital gain, unlike in a provident fund, voluntary provident fund, where you have to pay the taxes every year. So it's like a fixed deposit now. You have to pay the taxes in that year, the year in which you earned it. And you have to pay it repeatedly year on your contribution upwards of 2.5 lakh rupees. But on a debt mutual fund, you have to pay a tax only when you redeem. So you get a benefit of deferring your taxation, and that deferment benefit will add further to the 0.35, 0.4%. And that could add to a further compounding benefit towards earning more through a debt mutual fund in comparison to provident fund. And of course, the third benefit we should not forget is provident fund is restricted on access, right? So you can't liquidate it. A debt mutual fund is liquidable at any point in time. While I agree with your point, it's more riskier, but it has its set of benefits. So one may definitely want to consider, especially the ones who understand debt mutual funds. And there are good debt mutual funds out there, high quality, that one could consider.
We'll talk about that, but you know what, actually restricting access may be a positive thing in hindsight. You'll realize at the time of retirement, right? I mean, if you allow access to everyone to their money, then you know what's going to happen, just end up spending it. So I just wanted to, before I ask you for your fund recommendations in debt mutual funds, once again, if we can get that plate up on screen, although it optically looks like the returns from debt mutual funds are not higher than VPF, we'll just get the plate for you once again. So optically it looks like it's just 6.19% versus 5.84%, but because of deferral of tax of debt mutual funds, the returns of debt mutual funds will be much higher compared to a VPF. That's the post-tax returns, because you don't have to pay the tax immediately in that year. You can pay it as and when you redeem. All right. So we got that point clear. Finally, can you give us some fund recommendations? You said out of everything, fixed deposits, tax-free bonds, VPF and debt mutual funds are the most lucrative. So what would your top recommendations be?
Yeah, that's what the math is showing up, and I think we should go by the math. So we should definitely be looking for a mutual fund which has the potential of generating something like 7%. So a safer option of that, so I have two set of options. A safer option is SBI Magnum medium-term fund and a Kotak dynamic bond fund. Now these are, if you have a time horizon, which in case of provident fund you do have a time horizon upwards of 3, 4, 5 years, you could definitely look at being able to generate a return of close to 7%, and therefore you will be better off than a voluntary provident fund. And the returns that you end up making on this are coming with a certain amount of safety, which is why I said this is a safer option, because these funds hold high quality papers. This is Government of India bonds, the high quality PSUs and AAA rated bonds. So that's the first two funds that I would recommend as a safer option. For the ones who are open to taking slightly higher risk, could definitely consider ICICI Credit Risk Fund and HDFC Credit Risk Fund. That's what our recommendation would be. So
when you say slightly higher risk, I mean, that caveat is important, right? Because debt mutual funds are riskier. I mean, I'm trying to protect my money here, and then you're saying slightly higher risk. What does that mean? I mean, just for a layman.
Yeah, I mean, a credit risk fund is a credit risk fund. There is a certain risk that you're taking of going down into lower than a AAA rated. But these funds that I've just recommended to you have had the track record of having, almost no defaults. I can't say zero defaults at this point in time, given the number of defaults that have happened. But despite these defaults, the benefit was overwhelming. That you could see these funds being able to deliver definitely upwards of 7%. Even now, if you look at these funds and look at their YTMs, which is called as the yield to maturity, they are definitely in a position to be able to generate upwards of 7%. And given the revival in the economy, etc., credit cycle, etc., so these funds are not as risky. And we all know we've come out of a big accident last year, and therefore it looks very scary. But these are funds which have been managed very prudently and have managed the situation much better than the others. Okay, Chetan, we have completely run out of time, but it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for explaining the taxation angle to us and telling us that one should not fret. It's okay if your employee provident fund is getting taxed. There are several other options within the debt asset class that will give you more lucrative returns. With that, it's a wrap on another edition of Smart Money. Keep writing to us about all the topics or the subjects that you would want us to chat about, and we'll make sure to take them up on our show. Thanks for watching.